Happy Friday. You're watching Conversationality, a bi-weekly show brought to you by Optionality, your community exploring the now of work. I am Jory Jardins, co-founder of Optionality. With me is my co-founder, my forever co-founder, Elisa Camahort Page.
Hello.
And
Happy
yes, we
Friday.
are a day later because I forgot that we had moved our call yesterday, and poor Lisa was sitting and waiting for me. So
Waiting by the phone, man. I haven't done that in a long time.
some weeks are like that.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
This week, though, we had we had our latest Optionality in Real Life event on Wednesday evening, hosted at the Paul Hastings Law Offices in downtown San Francisco. Spectacular 48th floor conference room with these views of the bay and the Bay Bridge and the ferry building. I thought it was kind of fitting to be that high up in the sky where we were talking about how to handle our finances with aspiration and inspiration. Our theme for this month is money, financial wellness, money mindset. So we kicked it. That's right. Show me the money. So we kicked it off on the 1st with this event where the discussion was with two great speakers, Shama Bunton, who is the creator of the Catalyst Wealth Summit, Get Rich Together podcast. And she's also runs the Big Delta Capital Investment Fund. And your financial
And
advisor,
Patrice
correct?
Kresge, who has for years helped me out and my family and our family finances, and who graciously came by because we wanted her to sprinkle a little dust on the rest of us and help us think about money mindset. And there's so much I wanted to say about that. I didn't know, oh, gee, would this be right for everybody? But I think that we all have a lot of similar things that we're grappling with, similar life stages, similar questions. And if anything, it was just solidified in my mind having her there that we have this universal anxiety, and there is no right or wrong. There is no, like, I thought, well, maybe my questions have been so dumb over the years, and everyone else would be like, "Oh, that's so obvious." But no one was like that. I was gratified that even one of the lawyers in the crowd talked about how she has no idea. She helps companies, advises companies, but when it comes to her own finances, sometimes she just doesn't quite have the same capabilities for herself.
Well, and I think that both Shama and Patrice really made the point that you don't make financial decisions in a vacuum. First of all, they're really highly influenced by two things. The first is when we say your money story, we mean going back to childhood. Like Patrice was saying that the first question she asks new clients is what's their first memory about money? And because it shapes what gives you anxiety about money and what doesn't, and it shapes how you think about it. And then the second thing we're all highly influenced by that's individual is our values. So what do we care about? What do we want to say with how we spend our money and what we do with our money? And those two things mean that there's no one answer about what to do with your money right now. And it has to be influenced by what really triggers you to feel comfortable and not comfortable, anxious or not anxious, and what will serve your values, which may not be the same as other people. Other people may, prioritize things differently. So in that way, that kind of advice is a little bit universal. And then Shama, is really talking about how we tend to focus on the things that have gone wrong and we don't take the wins when we have them, and that we need to fill our confidence gap. And we're smart people, we can make decisions, we can find resources, we can look for help. And she works with a whole community of badass, mostly women, who nonetheless still need to remind themselves to pat themselves on the back sometimes, and that asking questions isn't bad, that's how we get better at doing it. So there were some questions that came up, like someone asked, a lot of this advice involves, some of us were talking about decisions that involve our partners. And she's like, I don't have a partner and I don't really plan on trying to acquire one. Like she doesn't have kids. She doesn't have a partner. She's not sure she's ever going to have the latter. And like, how does that change for her? So there are differences. There are different nuances to first of all, what financial environment we're operating within, the tax environment, the retirement environment, but also emotionally. And so I thought we got to cover some of that ground as well.
I thought that was especially interesting because Shama got into this world after she had a divorce and now she's remarried, but it kind of forced her to have to look at her financial life.
Yeah.
And I had always thought, I mean, many of my friends who are divorced, it's a shock to the system. And what emerged from that conversation from the single person who had asked that question was that actually it's kind of scary maybe, but it's also very freeing because it's yours. It's yours to
Yeah.
think through. There's no one to have to work it out with. There's no competing values. There are your values.
Yeah. Sometimes that sounds like it would be a lot easier, you know. But not to mention that if you're like, it's true that statistically, I think we kind of overlean on the fact that women live longer. I think statistically that's true, but once you hit a certain age, it's actually less true because more boys and young men die earlier. It's skewed because they tend to have more risk taking behavior. They get into more car accidents, or they have more overdoses, or they have more accidents. So I forget, who was I talking to? It was you always ask who could be against the Equal Rights Amendment. And someone once, I think it was the feminist majority. I went to one of their webinars or luncheons, and they said, well, the insurance industry is against it because they use this metric of women living longer as a way to charge women more. But in fact,
Oh.
a woman and a man who hit 60, the difference in who's going to then hit 80 once they get to that age is actually much smaller than the overall life difference. So I think we kind of overlean on that fact a little bit, that women live longer. They might live a little longer. I also think men get sicker, they are less likely. Women get trained, socialized very early on to go to the doctor every single year. And remember, you used to have to go to the doctor every year to get your birth control. Like, you had to go. You could, so you
Right.
had to go. So that's another component, is that, and you can't control another person, as I have learned. You cannot control another person's attention to their own health. And then you don't control whether you end up having to, if that ends up being a big financial drain or an expense, or your caretaking reduces your ability to earn. Like, these are things that if you're single, like, you might have to deal with it though with your parents. So maybe it all comes out in the wash, right? But we all have someone we got to take care of at some point in our lives.
It just was eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
And to your earlier point, when Shama brought up a much more expansive view on investing. It wasn't about is that a good decision or not? It's about it was much more it came from the abundance mindset. Is we were talking about that.
Yeah.
And I thought that she really connected the two very pragmatically. She talked about the abundance mindset and how we often train ourselves to think like it's a very limited opportunity. You have to make a decision, and there's right, there's wrong, and there is no right or wrong. When we're all in this together, we're all sharing our information. We all can become wealthy. We all can benefit. And when you think of it that way, what's there to lose
Well,
and to
and
be
also
wealthy?
what came up during the event is, but what does wealthy mean to different people? Like, you have people, some of the richest people in the world, who can't seem to answer the question of what is enough for you. They just want more and more and more. And then there are other people who are like, hey, I just want to stay in this house and have my own comfortable, like, this is what I like. What two different people need is also based on what's their definition of wealthy. And what I love is that, I think your piece you wrote about abundance, and I'll put this in the show notes, was about, hey, living your values contributes to your abundance mindset. Being able to do things you care about, not what other people perceive as making you rich, is doing work that is on mission, doing work that serves
Yeah.
your purpose. That contributes to your abundance. So abundance and wealth is not just what's the dollar amount in your bank account. And I think that that is something that we can get, especially I think maybe living in Silicon Valley. And I bet people who live like anywhere, I think anywhere you're living where there's a lot of people around who are in the business of amassing and
Yes.
scaling and everything bigger, bigger, bigger. I think it's really easy to lose track of that your definition does not have to be the same as, Jeff Bezos on what is enough and what is wealthy, and what makes you rich. And I think that that was also really interesting to talk about. And what I really liked about your piece was inclusion of, how happy are you? How fulfilled are you? How on purpose are you? How much are you helping others? And if that's your value set, and what are you helping others by doing? And so, to me, I really related to your piece, in that area. But I think it also came up at our event that, we all get to define, what is enough, what is rich, what is wealth, what is abundance, but mostly that question of what is enough. Because I sometimes feel like saying that to some of the richest people in this world. What would be enough for you? Like how
Right.
you can never spend all your money. You can never spend it. So what is enough?
When I think of an abundance mindset, of course, it could be financial, but I also think about people who are very free with contacts and free
Mm,
with advice and free with and they're not looking to get anything back. It's just it's almost like keeping a flow of information, of karma, of good juju, just surrounding yourself with that because it's just good. It's staying in motion.
yeah.
And I did write about this. I noticed that I was on a panel for Atheon, this organization that I advise, and they had a great session about networking. And I thought, oh God, how many networking panels have I been on where we're like, you got to tap your networks, you got to expand your network. And I was thinking it was going to be very tactical, and it was none of that. It was
Mm,
more about the energy of staying in motion, of being generous, of reciprocating without over reciprocating, about keeping your energy up, especially at times when you don't feel like you have an abundance. How do you manufacture that abundance? And I don't think they said it quite that way, but that's how I interpreted that. And I thought that actually feeds right into that.
mhm,
It's something you can actually develop even in moments where you're not financially as stable as you may like. It's something that you generate. It's something you can provide for yourself and for others, and that comes back. It's like an energy. And we've talked about oh my God, I already forgot the name of the book.
The secret.
Thank you. It's so secretive, I forgot the title.
Yeah.
And how, I don't know if quantum physics plays into that. Okay. I really don't. But I do feel like it's a very practical way for me to think about generating abundance for myself.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's quantum physics. I think it's gardening. You throw seeds out
Yeah.
there. Every time you help someone else, you're planting a seed. Every time you're connecting to people, you're planting a couple seeds. And you're not like there's really well controlled gardens. There's the things that grow in the planter box where I like actually plant things and prune them and then there's the things that I always tell this story that we had a fig tree in our backyard, and I don't like figs, and my husband likes them, but the figs that it made were inedible.
Mm,
And they were fibrous and tough. And I had a friend who gardened who said maybe it was because we were coming out of the drought when we moved into this house. So maybe it wasn't enough water. Anyway, I decided, why do I have this big old fig tree that with inedible figs? And I pulled it out and I planted a plum tree and an avocado tree. And the plum tree has fruited from the beginning. The avocado tree still hasn't fruited, But across the yard, I now have another fig tree. And it grew when they pulled that tree out, they must have dropped something. It's this big old fig tree. Still same figs, unfortunately, that I don't think are edible. But the concept of, I had a volunteer cherry tomato plant on the side of my house for 2 years in a row, because at some point, I obviously, when I was cleaning out my planter box, I had dropped something that took root, and it was this big cherry with great cherry tomatoes. So that's those are called volunteers. When you get plants
Oh, yeah.
that you didn't
Yeah.
plant, but it's a volunteer. And I feel like that's what you're doing with, there's transactional networking, speed dating type networking, and then there's just your
Ugh.
yeah, exactly. You're gardening, you're planting seeds. You don't know what's going to grow. And maybe it grows in your neighbor's yard, actually. Sometimes volunteers can be carried on the wind. And so maybe there's someone in my neighborhood that now has a fig tree or a cherry tomato plant because of my volunteer seedlings. But it's all about kind of cultivating, cultivating. And it doesn't always have to be super formal and transactional. Um, and so I don't know what quantum physics, like, I haven't read The Secret. If I'm being honest, I haven't read it. So I don't know what quantum physics has to do about it, but to do with it. But
Oh, well, I mean, look at our origin story, Elisa. I mean, when we first met and we met at a conference, I
yes,
wasn't there because I'm like, maybe I'll meet my co-founder for
yeah,
a new company I'm about to develop. No, I just quit my job. I knew I loved blogging. I thought, let's just see who I meet. Maybe if I meet someone like-minded people, it will inspire me
yeah,
to build something. I had no idea what. It wasn't a company at the time.
yeah, yeah. It's
Intention.
so It's so funny. I went last week. I was on vacation. I went to Ashland, Oregon for the first time, Shakespeare Festival, and it was a tour led by an old theater director of mine. That I mean, I haven't done a show in 25 years, so this is someone I first worked with in '93, and then the last time we did many shows together over 7 years or so, and we've kept in touch. And he leads these tours, and so we went out to dinner one night, and I was like, "Oh, you're part of the Blog Her origin story." Or my origin story that led to founding Blog Her. And he kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? When I was falling in love with blogging, I had what I called my peanut butter chocolate moment, where I thought, oh, blogging would be a great marketing tool, communications channel for people who need to talk to their customers. And I thought, maybe I can combine my love of the theater with my love of this new technology, because I think it would be a great tool for marketing for theaters, because it would build word of mouth by telling rehearsal stories and behind the scenes and history of the things. A blog could really develop interest in a production before it opens, because usually theater relies on word of mouth, but it has to wait till opening night for anyone to, or used to have to wait till opening night before anyone knew anything about it, really, except for ads. So I went to this gentleman and I said, hey, you don't have to pay me. You just have to give me access to talk to the cast and the crew and watch some rehearsals and give me a discount code that I can track. And he said, sure. And I did all that. And out of it, I got a little case study of what I was able to achieve for them with this blog. And then I took that case study to other theaters in the area and got a few more clients that way. He has, I mean, this was, I don't know, more than 20 years ago. He didn't remember it at all. He didn't remember having, he didn't remember. He's not web savvy. He had never even gone and read the blogs. He hired me then and paid me for a few ongoing shows after that, so I sent him, those links are still alive. I went and found this old theater blog. I never killed it. It's still on the web. And I went and sent him the links when I got home and said, here's the very first post I made for you. And he was like, wow, I have, and it was telling a story about a rehearsal. And he's like, I don't even remember that story. I don't remember.
You don't remember that show.
I don't remember that happening. And so anyway, so it's just kind of funny how, unbeknownst to him, it was really key to me building this business and blogging, which then made me think I could build our business around blogging. Because originally I had never intended to be an entrepreneur. I thought I was just going to climb the corporate ladder like my mom,
Mhm.
So Life is funny. Life is both long and short.
But one thing is for sure, that is the abundance mindset played out.
Yes, right. Because and I always tell that to people, find a project. I think that the fact that you and Lisa and I worked on that first blog her didn't start a company. We were not a company when we did that first
No.
conference. We were just three individuals. We threw some money in to put this on. We divvied up the task. We did it we called it a labor of love. It was a project and we worked on it for 120 days. And then at the end of that, we could say, we knew each other, and we didn't know each other. That's the thing. I met you at that conference. We spoke for what, 45 minutes?
Yeah.
I met Lisa. I had coffee with Lisa because we had a mutual friend. It was no different than any of a million coffees that any of us have had in our lives, where we meet with someone because we have a person in common and we just want to, meet someone, talk to someone. And I always say, if there's before you get married, and we immediately after we decided to form a company, we got a lawyer right away. We did it right. We had the LLC agreement. We did all the things, but that first 4 months we did not. And it certainly helped us see what it would be like to work together, and what our values were, and what our work ethic was, and what
Yep.
all of that stuff. That's actually more important than the idea. Are you aligned on work ethic? Are you aligned in values? Are you aligned in communication, willingness to communicate? And so, yeah, we just did that for fun, basically, really.
Out of love. I mean, truly. I believe also the abundance mindset is about love, in the sense that you can't have an abundance mindset looking for and expecting and saying, all right, I'm going to do this because I want
Yeah,
you have to have, and this is my personal philosophy. I don't know what others feel about this, but I think that's part of it. The intention has to be there, and that intention is about, I'm just here to explore. It's pure, it's based on pure interest, pure values, pure connection. And from there, I think that's the stuff. Those are the seeds that need to be
right,
there.
right, right. And then, not everything works and not everything turns into
Nope.
a big thing. But when it does, there's nothing better, right? There's nothing better than when something actually works and strikes you're in the right place at the right time, which I'm fully convinced we were. And I felt that multiple times in my career. I got into tech in 97, perfect time. I don't know if I would have the same career today if I got into tech in 2005. It was a different time.
Yeah.
Um, it was the right time when we started Blog Her. Nobody was doing what we were doing, but everyone was starting to pay attention to where we were playing, and all they found was us, in that kind of intersection. And so timing has you'll hear people a lot of times say we were too early. Um, I don't know if you often hear people say we were too late. I think
Mhm.
most people like to think you're too early, that you were ahead of the market. But I think with us, we were constantly trying to meet the market. But you have to you have to get to know the market. You have to talk to the market. You have to understand the market to meet it.
No one says you're too early when you're making money. And
Yeah,
we'd figured that out. So
yeah.
no one was saying we're too early, because we were.
Yeah, exactly. No one says you're early or late. And
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right. We're
Um,
right on time.
well, money is continuing to be our theme for the rest of this month. And if you missed the In Real Life event, which was fabulous, we are having a webinar on October 15th with Emily Scott, who calls herself a financial confidant. And we're going to dig in a little deeper on the whole money story, money mindset, how to align what you're doing with your money with what you want to do with your life. And we're also going to publish a guest newsletter from her where she talks about philanthropy's role in your money story and your money mindset. And that is something that I really think is important for everyone to think about. Like, how do they use their money? outside building their own
Mm.
nest egg and outside helping their own, going beyond, thinking about what more you can do to cultivate the world you want, not just the life you want. So that's also coming. And so I'll put the registration for that in the show notes as well, because we hope you'll sign up and check out that webinar. Emily's great. Just in talking to her about figuring out what was going to be the webinar and what was going to be the guest newsletter she would create. I mean, I ended up telling her my whole money story, and like,
Of
of course,
course you did.
she got it out of me.
Lisa's very open. Very
Yeah.
open about that. That's one of the things I love about you.
Actually, I told a story after the panel was over. I got into this conversation, trying to remember what the name of the person that was with. And I was telling them my early money stories are all about people very close to me, a relative, a partner, a best friend, all by the time I was 20, 21, had taken money from me or borrowed money, never paid it back, or whatever. They all three of these people. And I never really, and I knew that, I mean, I knew that was a thing. I knew that's why I kind of have a thing about money, but, I didn't really connect the dots that's why I've always been, oh, keep our money separate. And I need to have my own, and I need to be in control, and I need to know everything, and very, very anxious about that. But it's the money story, right? It's like,
So is this what the money confidant will be talking about? Some of what she's going to talk about?
well, yeah, I mean, she's going to talk about like what Patrice said about asking her clients,
Yeah.
what's your earliest money memory? Like, I don't have really early ones. This all started when I was like a teenager. But that is part of it. Like, what about your childhood has, kind of ingrained in you certain perspectives on money, and how do you both poke holes in it if it's holding you back. But I also think there's an element of respecting your money story. Like, you're not trying to fix yourself, you're not trying to like cure your
That's
childhood
right.
money story. You're trying to understand it so you can say, okay, so that's why I need this kind of level of transparency, or this kind of independent access to something, and saying that's okay. If that's what you need to like help you feel safe and secure and comfortable, then, yeah, sure, maybe you want to go to therapy and like change eventually your mindset about it. But also, it's not bad to like work with the mindset you have right now. Um, so hopefully on the webinar, which we do in meeting style so that people can come on screen and ask their own questions, we can talk a little bit about people's money memories and money stories, and like how to acknowledge it, respect it, take care of it, and make more conscious decisions about what you hope to change about it too.
I'll be coming prepared with mine.
Ooh, I don't know if I know your money story.
I don't know if I've really thought about it until you started talking.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to think about. Like,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden whoever I was, I can totally picture, I'm just blanking on her name right now. And she said this thing to me when I was saying, oh, that must explain this and that, and the other thing. And she goes, well, it's just taken you a while to not be afraid of being betrayed over money. And I'm like, oh, ow, maybe. That was like a little too incisive. Thank you.
Well, I did crack a little joke that sometimes I think Patrice, who's our family's advisor, that she's like a marriage therapist too, because you've got two different mindsets
Yeah.
that are kind of conflicting at times.
Yeah.
Not really her job, but
And from a very tactical point of view, that can end up affecting like what you invested. Because
yes,
I mean, every financial advisor, even if I use on Schwab, I use the automated intelligence portfolios, and you answer questions about risk tolerance, about time windows, and you might have different opinions about risk tolerance, or you might have a different opinion of when the window is within which you want to like be ready to do the next big move. And and that can change the decisions you make, what you invest in, what you save, what you feel comfortable with. So I know it's, money's hard. As I said, we did a survey with BlogHer very early on where we asked bloggers about what conversations they were comfortable having and what they were not having. And the topic the women in our community were most uncomfortable talking about, more uncomfortable than talking about their sex lives or their spouses or their children, or was money. That was the topic people least wanted to talk publicly about.
That's right.
So I don't know if it's so different now.
Well, and we're going to do it again.
And we're going to do it again. We're going to do it
Maybe
again. It should be easier. Anyway, come find us over on optionality.life, and you can get access to all the content we're publishing. I'll put links to Jory's amazing piece about abundance mindset and her own take on it, which I think is better than other takes I've read on it, and the link to sign up for the webinar. And hopefully we will see you around the site. Thanks for joining us.